We are going to be looking at some disturbing videos, strange and odd news stories, and as always, let's go ahead and get right into today's video. When it comes to the date of September 22nd, September 23rd, there is something strange, something very mysterious, something, how can I say it, skewed, get what I'm saying? Skewed about the date of September 23rd. There are a lot of people out there that strongly believe, that the world will come to an end on September 23rd. There will be some kind of massive apocalypse or even a rapture. Now, for a lot of countries, they are already in September 23rd, but for example, the United States, the 23rd will come tomorrow. But here's the thing, this has been happening for quite some time now, for years, and it's really starting to feel like the dates of September 22nd, 23rd, and the 24th are massive energy harvesting rituals. The farthest I can find of people talking about this on social media, and I'm sure it goes back a lot further, but you can see this post here on Reddit 8 years ago where this individual asked, "What's with the hysteria around September 23rd?" And in this comment, you can see him saying that the 2017 eclipse and the recent natural disasters to mean that the world will come to an end on September 23rd, and this is what people were talking about at that time. Now, one could say that this is just mass internet hysteria or a mass internet hoax. One person starts talking about the apocalypse on September 23rd, and then another person does it, until it starts circulating all across social media. One could really take it as that, especially given the fact that people talk about it as a date of destruction every year without fail. But here's the strange thing, is that the dates 9/22 and 9/23 have appeared in more media about destruction and chaos than the date of 9/11. And we do know that 9/11 had appeared quite frequently in movies and media, to the point that a lot of people believe that the date of September 11th has a lot of predictive programming surrounding it. But like I said, you will find that the date of 9/22 and 9/23 appear more often than 9/11. I mean, even going all the way back to the movie The Little Shop of Horrors, it says, "On the 23rd day of the month of September, in an early year of a decade not too long before our own, the human race suddenly encountered a deadly threat to its very existence." When it comes to the movie Knowing, a movie about the end of the world, people had pointed out that the number 923 or 932, but 923 in reverse, is seen at the end of the note that pretty much predicts all of these end of the world events. The Big Bang Theory, an asteroid is supposed to or predicted to collide with Earth on September 23rd. When it came to the TV show Lost, the plane crash that set everything in motion happened on September 22nd. So like I said, if you really look into it further, you'll see that the dates 9/22 and 9/23 have coincided with a lot of destruction, chaos, end of the world events when it comes to Hollywood, even before people were talking about this heavily on social media. But what is it about these dates? And given the fact that a lot of people are giving their energies to these dates, to the point that even as of 2025, a lot of people are selling their cars, selling their homes, quitting their jobs, because they believe that the apocalypse will happen on September 23rd, it really feels like a date or dates where we're giving into a giant ritual, which is pretty interesting because the autumn equinox begins on September 22nd, September 23rd. And this was also a date the autumn equinox was heavy into rituals for a lot of cultures. You can see news articles right here. People are quitting jobs and selling cars after becoming convinced world will end as we know it tomorrow. So every year during the autumn equinox, the harvest, people are opening themselves up to fear and their emotions are being harvested. We even have pastors coming out and telling people that the world will end tomorrow, that there's going to be an apocalypse, and people are really believing it. And then when 9/24 comes, you have this mass humiliation of, "I told you so, the world was not going to end." And a part of this massive ritual, you may even hear people or news stories of people ending themselves because they sold everything, they quit their jobs, they have nothing, believing something was going to happen the day prior. It is just such a strange and weird ritualistic time. And like I said, you even had Hollywood playing on people's emotions when it came to this date through movies before the popularization of the internet. And this will happen in 2026, 2027, 2028. And when people let their guard down and they stop thinking about this date, because nothing ever happens on this date besides these very weird rituals that people give themselves to, then boom, finally something will happen. And it'll be a scripted event by the so-called powers that be and the 33 people. And I'm not talking about like some kind of rapture. I'm talking about maybe something on the scale of 9/11, because this is how people are manipulated. But here's a very interesting connection that pretty much ties everything together. So like I said, 923, 922, the autumn equinox is heavy into traditions, pagan traditions, and this was also the time, the autumn equinox, when Persephone, a god, went to the underworld. And as Persephone went to the underworld, she had a lot of fear because she was being taken unwillingly. Think about a lot of these people that are giving into their fears of the unknown about 923, that the rapture will happen or an apocalypse, but they don't realize that they are playing into the rituals of Persephone, a god who had fears of her own going into the underworld. Can't make it up even if you wanted to. But with that being said, some very interesting events, like I said in my last video, will be taking place today. You have the Feast of Trumpets that will be happening today, and for the very first time in history, again, it's falling on a solar eclipse, and then I do believe on 9/24 they will be broadcasting their trumpet blowing ceremony or their horn blowing ceremony to the world, and that also will be the first time in history they've ever done so. And then, of course, today you also have the reptile giving his lecture on the Antichrist. So even though, again, there's not going to be this massive apocalypse taking place, we still have some things that are indeed happening. But just by me mentioning 923, 922, I know I'm going to get those comments tomorrow where people are going to say, you said the world was going to end tomorrow, and look, I'm still here. I blame you for that. Even though in any of my videos where I mentioned 923, I did not say anything of the sorts. Matter of fact, I got a comment like that yesterday. This individual right here said, so if nothing happens on the 23rd or the 24th, will you be posting any sort of retraction or apology to your viewers for your shameless fear-mongering? And I replied with, did I say anything would happen on the 22nd or the 23rd outside of the events already said to happen, like the Feast of Trumpets and Peter Thiel giving his speech? See what I mean? So the bots, the NPCs, they are on hot pursuit. They are on Need for Speed hot pursuit. But in other bizarre news, I said in yesterday's video how more organizations, more and more people are basically using AI to pretty much resurrect the dead, have the dead speak out on video through AI. And I had also said this sets a very bad precedent, given the fact that this is also being allowed in a courtroom. But when it comes to what's currently taking place in Albania and AI, this news may just take the cake.
Unë nuk jam këtu për t'i zëvendësuar njerëzit, por për t'i ndihmuar ata.
Are you more likely to trust a politician if they're AI?
Unë kam vetëm të dhëna, dije dhe algoritme të përkushtuara në shërbim të qytetarëve, panshmërisht, me transparencë dhe pa u lodhur kurrë. A nuk është pikërisht kjo fryma e demokracisë kushtetuese?
This week, Albania's first ever AI minister addressed parliament in a bid to fight corruption. After winning re-election, Albanian Prime Minister Edi Rama named an AI-generated bot named Diela to manage and award public contracts to private companies. This is a bid for Albania to burnish its image in an effort to join the European Union and throw off a reputation for corruption and money laundering, according to Reuters. And she is not the first AI politician we've seen. In last year's United Kingdom general election, the Smarter UK party put forward an AI candidate, AI Steve, although he had to pull out of the race when polling showed only 9% of locals had heard of the campaign. Albania's opposition has criticized the move, saying that as the bot is not human and cannot hold citizenship, the appointment cannot be constitutional. And of course, this raises a host of questions about the future of governance and just how much we're willing to let AI lead.
So as you saw in the news clip, Albania will have its first AI prime minister, but I'm starting to strongly believe that a lot of these politicians, a lot of these people in high up places, no matter the country, are pretty much bots or AI themselves. They're always doing something weird or glitching out, but again, that's my own opinion. But if we're going to go ahead and take this on face value, that this is the first ever AI politician, it doesn't make it any less weird that we're giving AI a role to make decisions like this. And they give AI these decision-making powers because they use the guise of corruption, they use the guise of illegal things happening in the government, so AI can be more trustworthy. And believe me, we're going to see the same thing happening in multiple different countries. And we already see hints of that taking place with Sam Altman saying things like this.
AI gets so smart that the President of the United States cannot do better than following ChatGPT 7's recommendation, but can't really understand it either? What if I cannot make any better decision about how to run OpenAI and I just say, you know what, I fully hand it over. ChatGPT 7, you are in charge. Good luck. That might be the right decision in any individual case, but it means that society has like collectively transitioned a significant part of decision making to this very powerful system that is learning from us, improving for us, evolving with us, but in ways we don't totally understand. So that's the third category of how I think things can go wrong.
Maybe, just maybe, AI has been calling the shots and making the decisions for a long time now, much longer than what we're being told as the public anyway. Because if we're to believe that the so-called powers that be, the government, is far more advanced than the public, and a lot of these technologies we see, especially with AI, these chatbots, is ancient technology to them, then again, the question happens to be, how long has AI truly been calling the shots? And it's news stories like these that will slowly transition the public into accepting something that's been going on for who knows how long behind the scenes. Well, it worked out for Albania. They have less corruption. There's peace. A lot of things are working out. So why not have a AI president of the United States? I can see that argument being made. Definitely interesting times we're living in. And again, this is presented as breaking news for us, but more than likely, this is ancient news for them. But in this next video, this individual has a very good point. There are more and more news articles out there to cause division, wanting a civil war and so forth, but more and more people are pushing back. They're coming together and saying that something is not right here. This doesn't pass the smell test. And as more and more people come together and unite, then they're going to have another event, a much bigger event that I've spoken about on this channel quite often, that will really get people's attention.
Expected both sides to take one side. People are waking up. You're waking up. It's time for the alien invasion. For real, they're coming. How do I know they're coming? Because there's too much going on in the world. Now we need something bigger, something out there, something way bigger than Charlie Kirk or Israel. We need something to distract us from all the bullshit. And what better to do that than the aliens? I mean, they've kind of already been prepping us with the 3-eye Atlas comet. Something is going to come, not necessarily the aliens, but something bigger is going to take over the news source, because that's how it works. Something happens, dominates the mainstream media, and then in the background they're like, oh, people are smarter than we think. Send in the aliens! Mark my words, something bigger than what is happening right now will take over mainstream media, in the hopes that we're going to say, oh my gosh, this new thing is so much more important than that old thing, so I have to focus on this new thing. Does that make sense? It has happened time and time and time again. And what could possibly top a collective consciousness waking up to bullshit? It's got to be the aliens. See you on the other side.
This is something I feel very strongly about, this fake stage alien agenda. I know it's coming because we are just being flooded by news, media, and now even ads about aliens and materials not from this world, and that you have to turn them into the government. I just made a video about this on my other channel, Seconds of Horror, but I'm going to go ahead and play it again because it really fits with what this guy is saying. Segment to continue to push the alien UFO invasion agenda, more and more people are reporting that they are getting this ad to pop up. Matter of fact, this also popped up for me on Reddit, but this is appearing on Reddit, YouTube, TikTok, X, and so forth. It's this ad right here. $10,000 reward for exotic materials. Have you found a strange metallic object, debris, or artifact that behaves unusually? We're offering up to $10,000 for verifiable materials with exotic physical properties. What? So apparently these are the materials they're looking for. Materials with unusual electromagnetic properties, objects of potentially non-human technological origin, artifacts exhibiting anti-gravitational effects, metamaterials with anomalous structural properties. So I tried calling the phone number and it leads to Washington, D.C., but it kept ringing. So I went to the website right here, retrievalgroup.com, and it looks like an actual website. So on the About section, it goes on to say that, why do we do this? For too long, the most significant technological breakthroughs have been locked away in classified programs, private aerospace corporations, and government black sites. These discoveries, potentially including materials of non-human origin, represent humanity's greatest opportunities for advancement. We believe that revolutionary technology should not be the exclusive domain of military industrial complexes or billionaire space entrepreneurs. Every human being deserves access to discoveries that could solve energy crisis, cure disease, enable space exploration, and fundamentally improve life on Earth. Our mission is to create an independent pathway for these materials to reach the scientific community where they can be studied openly, published freely, and developed for the benefit of all humanity. And even if this is a legit website where they would want you to send them in your very bizarre findings, all of this would go right back to the government. And yes, this could be fake, this could be some kind of role playing, but the timing of all of this is very, very weird, given the fact that the government, they are heavily pushing the alien agenda, and not just in the United States, but also in other countries like China. And apparently the only way to send them information is to contact them by phone. You can text them as well. Like I said, it oddly leads back to Washington, D.C., but you would also have to include photos, videos, or documents that go securely through this signal, what they're calling a signal. And again, oddly enough, this is being displayed as an ad all across different social media platforms. And while I hear quite often that not everything is a conspiracy theory, that this whole UFO alien agenda is just a conspiracy theory, how much more evidence do we need before it becomes an actual possibility? And this is a great video breaking down the difference between a conspiracy theory and an actual possibility.
Let's begin by playing a little word association. I'll say a word, and you think of the first word that comes to mind. Conspiracy theory is what most people think of. We've all been conditioned to associate the word theory with the word conspiracy, because after all, no conspiracies could possibly be true. They're all just theories, aren't they? Well, in the phrase conspiracy theory, there are two words. The first word, conspiracy. The second word is the active word, theory. By definition, a theory is a supposition, an idea, a concept, a hypothesis. Let me give you an example. In theory, if I purchase a raffle ticket, I could win a prize. Now, as long as I don't purchase a raffle ticket, my win is theoretical. But once you purchase a raffle ticket, the win is no longer a theory. It becomes a possibility. And the more raffle tickets you purchase, the more possible and eventually probable the win becomes. Such is the case with a conspiracy theory. As long as there is no evidence, it is a conspiracy theory. But once you have a piece of evidence, no matter how flimsy or circumstantial it may be, it becomes a possibility. And the more evidence that is gathered, the more possible and eventually probable the conspiracy is.
But in other creepy news, I had spoken about in a couple videos how people over in New England believe that there may have been a serial criminal ending a lot of lives, and it actually stopped at the 13th body being found back in August. Well, oddly enough, over in Houston, people now believe that there may be a serial criminal ending a lot of lives, and the number is currently at 13 bodies being found. And like with all the bodies being recovered and found in Lady Bird Lake, with all the bodies that kept appearing in the New England area in a short period of time together, once again, authorities are saying that there's no serial criminal or any nefarious deeds taking place.
Our top story here tonight, the bodies being found in Houston bayous. Houston police report another body was just recovered today from the Buffalo Bayou area near Jensen and East downtown. So if you've been watching and keeping track alongside us, that is 4 bodies recovered in 4 days. Today is Thursday, and sadly, a U of H student has been identified as one of the bodies recovered from the Brays Bayou area on September 15th. That's Monday. She was reported missing days before. Sherman DeSell has been covering this story for a couple of days now, and Sherman, it is scary stuff here, but just kind of fill us in on what we know so far.
Yeah, it's definitely a cause of concern for a lot of our viewers, and many have made some speculations online about something maybe more nefarious happening here, and that's understandable. Our Fox 26 count is now at 13 bodies found in Houston bayous this year by law enforcement and first responders. Remember, the 22 bayous are spread out for miles, so it's a lot of ground to cover, and that comes with tough investigations. Here's what we know. HPD confirms a male body was recovered from Buffalo Bayou on Jensen Street in Edo on Thursday. Our camera caught officers and a dive team on the scene around 3 p.m. There were reports of a man jumping into the water there. We're waiting to hear more on this. And remember when we reported 2 bodies recovered from local bayous on Monday, September 15th? One of them was identified as 20-year-old Jade Sage McKissick. She was a U of H student, reported missing on September 11th, last seen that day near the 3700 block of McGregor by a restaurant. She was a junior communications and advertising major. In a letter sent to students, U of H describes her as a campus resident and a student employee and a friend to many in their community. We're talking about a lot of bodies in a city where many people walk, run, and bike the bayou areas every day. So we visited an area near the White Oak Bayou to see how people have been reacting to the discoveries. A lot of people are just wondering, what's the deal? HPD hasn't really given us a lot of information either. What questions do you have?
I mean, is there somebody paying attention to these? Is there more details to investigation? I don't know. It's just kind of scary at this point. When it's that many coincidences. There's not such a coincidence that happens multiple times.
There's long-term plans and there's short-term plans. I would hope that the short-term plans are in effect, and something is being done. Someone's patrolling, or someone's watching over cameras or lights, or anything's being done right now.
One of the guys who just said, is anyone paying attention to these?
Yeah.
That really brings us right back to HPD. So have we heard anything from HPD on these?
We haven't. I have been on the scene of the last 2 recoveries, hoping to hear something from public information officer. Haven't heard anything. We've reached out. They say don't anticipate hearing anything right now. We did reach out to the county forensics department to see if they'd be willing to say something. They didn't give an on-camera interview, but we are requesting more details from all of these instances, especially in the last couple of days. So hopefully we'll get some more information. But we hear what you're concerned about wondering if it's something more that we should be paying attention to, and we're trying to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, we'll certainly continue to ask those questions. Sherman, thank you so much.
So if the number of bodies found stops at 13, just like it did with New England, are we looking at some kind of ritual where they're ending people's lives? But again, it's just very weird that multiple bodies keep popping up in multiple states. And if you take a look at something like Lady Bird Lake, about 40 bodies, if not more, have popped up in that lake. But in any case, thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, please subscribe. If you're already subscribed, please like, as any engagement does help the channel grow. Once again, thank you so much for your support.